And here to react to that report and other top stories today, we welcome Senator Mike Braun of Indiana. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure.
Good morning. All right. So you also, interestingly enough, had your own exchange with Dr. Fauci. It was over herd immunity. Here's what happened.
How many vaccinations do we need to get fully in the arms to be at what the theoretical herd immunity would be and cases crash? Anybody?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a difficult number to give because herd immunity as a concept means you get enough people vaccinated, enough people infected, so that you have a core of protected people that's a blanket of protection over even the vulnerables who cannot.
So that was back in early May 11th. Oh, goodness, just the other day. But again, you know, Dr. Fauci is such a key advisor to the Biden administration. Were you satisfied when you heard that answer from him?
I've not been satisfied with Dr. Fauci's answers since I've been doing it. I go after Rand, and thank goodness Rand hit him almost like an attorney would on the Wuhan issue. Josh Hawley and I have got a bill, by the way, that calls for declassifying all that information so we can get to the bottom of it. But from the beginning, there's been such a difference in terms of what you say at one point in time and then changing the goalposts. And I think for most Americans, we know that if we don't reach a point where we can get back to normal, this thing is going to be looked at in the same fashion as a flu, or that we're going to have to deal with it on an annual basis. And what gets to me is how prescriptive they've been at one point in time to go from 6 feet to 3 feet to inside to outside. And of course, I give them some latitude because we learn on the fly. But you can't let them keep changing the goalposts and keep us in this state of suspension, because we're never going to get to where we need to be if we've got that kind of back and forth coming from the experts.
Yeah, and Americans, they just want answers, right? They just want some facts shared with them. Should it be a priority of the Biden administration to investigate even the origins of COVID-19?
It definitely should. When you've got something that has caused this much turmoil, there have been so many different opinions how to navigate through it. I was one early on, did a couple floor speeches, protect the most vulnerable. I think Governor DeSantis hit the sweet spot. Don't do these mandates, shut down economies, one size fits all. And when we distill in the rearview mirror what the right practices were, I think the experts have been more confusing than they've been helpful. And thank goodness there have been at least some governors that have had some independence of thought in terms of how to get through it. And that's playing out now in the sense that most of the blue states needed the bailout because they shut their economies down and they didn't do a little independent thinking, take a little risk. That's what's frustrating. And I think if we don't get at least a simple answer to when that herd immunity is going to arrive to where we can get rid of masks, it's going to even make it worse.
You know, when it comes to pandemic economic recovery efforts, as you're talking about here, you're joining a number of other lawmakers urging your state to drop enhanced unemployment benefits in order to encourage people to get back to work. Now, here's how the White House is defending their own policy. Let's listen.
Anyone collecting unemployment who is offered a suitable job must take the job or lose their unemployment benefits. There are a few COVID-19 related exceptions so that people aren't forced to choose between their basic safety and a paycheck. But otherwise, that's the law.
Now, the president there saying the law is clear. He says if you're offered a suitable job, you must take it. Do you think that message is really landing with Americans right now?
No, because that's the normal operating approach to unemployment. In most states, just what he said has already been in place. That's a deflection from what we tried to avoid back in the CARES Act, March 2020. with that $600 enhanced payment. That in places like Indiana with low costs of living was putting it out there close to $1,000 a week. And no rational individual would ever choose to come back to work when your jobs are paying $600 to $700 a week. You may need some of that kind of stuff in places like New York, Seattle, San Francisco at a higher rate, but it's a smokescreen. I traveled the state of Indiana, and small, medium, and large businesses all say the same thing. We're competing with the federal government, and I call on every governor, blue and red state, get rid of the benefits. I've got the benefit of coming from the street, running a business, most recently of any senator here. And I can tell you, it's not a sham, it's the truth. People are staying at home watching Netflix because the federal government is incentivizing to do so. Get rid of them. I'm glad 5, 6 states have already done it. I'm looking forward in my home state, and even the blue states ought to be aware that this is the dynamic unless they want more people and businesses to leave their states.
I want to talk to you about something happening in D.C. right now, the Liz Cheney leadership vote. Former President Trump just sent out his own statement, weighing in minutes ago, saying in part, the Republicans in the House of Representatives have a great opportunity today to rid themselves of a poor leader, a major Democrat talking point, a warmonger, and a person with absolutely no personality or heart. As a representative of the great state of Wyoming, Liz Cheney is bad for our country and bad for herself. Almost everyone in the Republican Party, including 90% of Wyoming, looks forward to her ouster, and that includes me. Clearly, the former president, no fan of Liz Cheney here. Senator, what's your thoughts on the vote right now and the leadership role, whether or not she should keep it or not?
Couple things. I take a little different view in the sense that I think we as conservatives and Republicans are slower footed than the Democrats when it comes to articulating issues and so forth. But I think when Trump cleared the field back in 2015-16, got elected, that was mostly about many of us as conservatives, especially Main Street ones, not corporate, fed up with business as usual. And to me, Liz Cheney represents that part of our party that would also align with a lot of the neocons, the big corporate membership of weighing into conservatism. That left the building. And here, you cannot have the person in your conference that's supposed to articulate your message talking about this kind of stuff. So we cannot lose many people in a party that already has to recognize that we got to find out how to turn young people, different demographic groups into conservatives. We only get about 1 out of 3 out of the gate. That's a broader, more systemic issue that we got to deal with. But this kind of stuff is not the right way to message the new conservatism that we need to build upon. Faith, family, community, small government, not corporations that generally side now with the elites on each coast. She was clearly not the messenger in the House of Representatives to do that.
All right. Would Elise Stefanik be an adequate replacement? There had been rumors that potentially she'd be the next in line.
I think that that's going to be something that probably will occur. I think Speaker or Minority Leader McCarthy has said so. So I think that that's going to happen. I don't know her well, but I think from what I understand about her point of view in general, she is looking at the new way that we reconfigure the Republican Party that represents Main Street, maybe the blue-collar side of life, not the elitist points of view, and especially the woke corporate point of view. And I think if we can't crystallize around that, we're going to be missing the message of what was clear in 2016, and I think clear in 2020, other than we got outmaneuvered by the other side when it came to some things they did out there that we need to address as well. So I think that Stefanik is kind of the messenger of the future. We need more of that message here in the Senate as well. I intend to be one of them going forward. All
right, and that's Senator Mike Braun of Indiana. Really appreciate you taking the time, Senator. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.